It seems that the shows of SummerSlam, the early stuff, is always end up being a really good undercard, but the last match seems to be the weakest part of the show. SummerSlam returns to Madison Square Garden, and they have a really amazing show here. This show was actually really good up until the last match, but luckily that wasn't the closing um match. Instead, it was a segment, one of the most iconic segments of all time, which was a wedding, of course. But we'll just kick off talking about this. And the Dragon, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, British Bulldog, Texas Tornado take on Power and Glory and Wardlow. This was more of a showcase of Bulldog, Ricky, and Kerry Von Erich. It was a fine little match, but you could tell that they just wanted to throw these guys in there. So I'm just like, all right, fine, let's just throw these guys in here and just have a fun match. And that's exactly what this was. It was fun little opener, and luckily the guys that we all grew up loving were the winners. However, we end up getting one of the greatest Intercontinental Championship matches of all time with Mr. Perfect and Bret the Hitman Hart. The fun fact is that Perfect was actually injured. He had a broken back, and they still managed to give us one of the greatest matches of all time. This match was phenomenal. You can clearly tell that Bret Hart and Perfect were just meant to be in the ring together at some point, and this was a great example of it. Mr. Perfect being like that cocky, arrogant heel, Bret Hart being this grown baby face. The rumor was that it was supposed to be Hogan and Bret Hart for the WWF Championship, but they didn't want to have Bret Hart lose momentum because there's no way they were going to give him the WWF Championship yet. But I'm actually glad that they went this route because this match was really good, and this was Bret Hart's first ever singles belt, and I think it's fitting that he would win the IC belt before he would win the WWF Championship. Let's give him some time. Let's give him some time to refresh. He ends up having a really good run with it. He had a good tag. He had a good tag team run with the Hart Foundation, but this was the beginning of his singles run and singles career, and I'm very glad it went that route because this Bret Hart really is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. This was the first real bad match that we get, but it was the natural disasters squashing the Bushwhackers. I think following Bret and Perfect, we needed a bathroom break match, and this was a fine little bathroom break match, which makes me not hate it. And luckily, it didn't go so long; it was only 6 minutes, so I could live with it. Moving on to one of the best built stories out there, one of the most underrated stories out there: Ted DiBiase versus Virgil. Basically, Virgil got tired of being essentially Ted DiBiase's lapdog servant, so he goes after revenge, and they never ever put the $1 million championship on the line. And outside of Ted DiBiase and maybe LA Knight, no one's really been that good being the $1 million champion. Not even Virgil, who ends up winning this match, but the story was there. It was brilliant because, Ted never defends this belt. It was just like his own replicated belt. But because he really cares about that belt, they put it on the line and then they gave us this moment. And Virgil winning was really good. And it was honestly a solid match. I was actually really happy with this. And, even though Virgil ended up doing nothing with that belt, he had a great moment. And I don't know how many people could say that. That was awesome. We all thought Virgil was going to go up to do bigger and better things. Unfortunately, he didn't. But you know what? It was nice when we believed it. Um, Big Boss Man defeated the Mountie in a jailhouse match. Basically, whoever lost would go to jail for a night, and this would not hold up today, where they make an assumption for the Wardlow being in jail. They do actually show segments of him in jail, so yeah, it was entertaining, but you could tell that this would not work out nowadays. LOD defeated the Nasty Boys in a street fight. This was a really good tag team match. The Nasty Boys were actually very underrated. This is actually their most famous match, and it's unfortunate because they have other great matches. This was a really good one, and I really enjoyed it. So I can't really fault it. It's very entertaining. like I said, Nasty Boys and LOD, definitely two of the more iconic tag teams of all time. So I can't really fault it. This was actually really good. IRS defeated Greg the Hammer Valentine. At this point, I was a little bit checked out, but I was just like, okay, fine. Let's just get these two um, before we get the main event, the last match, I should say. But this was whatever. IRS wins, UP. But the match that everybody wants me to talk about, of course, is Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior versus the Triangle of Terror, that being Sergeant Slaughter, General Adnan, and Kal Mustafa. It was a 2-on-1 handicap match with Sid Justice as the special guest referee. I'm shocked Sid didn't just wrestle in this match if this was the way they were going with. I think they were working their way to making him a heel, I guess. But when you have two of the biggest superstars of all time taking on three whatever type of talent, it was whatever. The famous part about this entire match was that Warrior ends up chasing somebody backstage, and then Vince allegedly fired Warrior. There's rumors that it did and did not happen. I'm gonna go with it did happen because we don't see Warrior afterwards, but Hulk Hogan gets the standing ovation, of course, because Hulk Hogan, brother. And there was that. Not a good main event, but the rest of the undercard really saved it. But the real savior was the finale. They were smart enough to end the show with Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth's wedding. Two of the most iconic characters in the 80s working their way over to the 90s. They get their moment. Macho Man marries Miss Elizabeth. Such an iconic moment. It's unfortunate that it never really worked out with the two. But this was a really cool moment and very awesome to see two of our favorite characters tie the knot at MSG of all places. So overall, this was my favorite SummerSlam up to this point. It was really good, and I really enjoyed the show. Even though there's a couple of matches that were like not as strong, but the moments definitely helped them out. But they do have some really fun and entertaining stuff in this show, which is why I'm giving it a B plus. It's the highest rating I gave any show up to this point, and well deserved. And I'm excited for our next video that I review of SummerSlam, because we'll be talking about SummerSlam 1992, where they went to London, England at the Wembley Stadium. There's going to be some fun stuff to talk about in that one. Take care, everybody.